Oh my Lord, it's Brinley Tucker in the fleece.
Hi guys.
We're gonna
Good
get
morning.
we're gonna get to all things Brinley, all things Thursday in just a couple of seconds. We're gonna remind you it's May 23rd. If you do the long division and carry the 4 divided by 3, Brinley, that gets us to August 21st. 90 days out from August 21st, which there's no great way to discuss that. That is, you are closing in on driving people to college, which I will be doing, single tier. Actually, multiple tiers, but I've been in therapy for it. So I'll be driving Bubba to college. Some of us will be going back to school shopping. And if you're not doing the right activities today, it's going to be very expensive going back to school shopping.
This is true.
Without the funding for that. So the activities today on May 23rd will get you to the closing table on or about August 21st. DTD2 for the week is you're calling your N's and your R's. Last week, we were calling our X's, ironically, right? So some of our agents had huge lists to go through. Hi, Steve. I'm really sorry. Do you still have my toothbrush? So this week with DTD2, we are calling N's and R's, texting E's. Today, we're heading into at 9 o'clock Fight Club. It is collective lead generation together. You can do it in the training rooms. You can join us at KWFightClub.com. It is cameras on, microphones off, making calls till 11 o'clock. We'll do post-game at 11, which we simulcast over to Facebook and YouTube to make sure everybody understands that we're moving the needle and they can join us or not join us. And we'll talk about our wins, and we do that at 11. Commercial Mastermind and Deal Share with Nathan W. Dickey and the entire crew that plays in the commercial space is going to be at 12 o'clock. That is in Portsmouth, in person only. We're not recording it because the feds are listening anyway. It doesn't really matter. And then evening group coaching with the region. That's tonight at 6 o'clock. So if you're a dual career agent or you're just busy talking to your cat during the day, you can hang out at 6 o'clock tonight with Tiff, our regional productivity coach. That is, the link is in the morning news, as all things are. Also in the morning news, we discussed this yesterday, Brinley's face is coming to beautiful downtown Portsmouth. She will be in the training room in Portsmouth on Thursday. We just had Matthew Erdman, our regional OP, came up, and he sort of did Erdman style. He's like a crew-cutted Justin Timberlake. Are you with me on that? Yes?
Yeah.
And do you know that his staff made up like a fake EP for him? His rap name is Dirty Mouse.
Really?
Yeah, he's in jeans and like Adidas Gazelles and like a hoodie in this industrial complex, and it's his rap album cover.
That's hilarious.
So the next time you see Erdman, have him. Well, you can tell him where to sign, whatever. I don't know what your relationship with Erdman is, but anyways, sign your forehead there. I'll keep it clean. All that aside, you are coming and you're doing Agent Financials. He did sort of Agent Financials Unplugged and told his investment story and his whole deal, which is pretty awesome. You've got such a great story. You've been so transparent every time you've taught. Agent Financials for you on Thursday. What's the meat on the bone for you? What do you want the agents to walk away with?
The meat on the bone, and I will, I'm very transparent around my journey. And I'll try not to get emotional here because I think money is an emotional thing, right? And most of us are, the way we view money and the way that we're viewing our financials and our businesses, at least for me in the beginning of my business ownership journey, was based on the way I was programmed around money. And I share, when I share my stories, is that my mother taught me how to live poor better than she taught me how to live rich. So if you give me $1,000, I will eat ramen, mac and cheese, beanie weenies out of a can.
Don't know what a beanie weenie is, but I'm here for it. What the hell is a beanie weenie?
You don't remember beanie weenies from like
no ma'am.
Not grown up poor.
Look at me. I would know beanie weenies. They would be somewhere in the dietary ecosystem of Tim Lindsay if I knew about them.
Beanie weenies were like this spam of baked beans and mini sausages in a can.
Maybe they're Florida bound. Okay.
Yeah, I got maybe.
Bring me a can.
Not poor.
I will give you a crisp $30 bill for a can of beanie weenies. If they make it through customs. I don't know if can you actually get them on a plane?
I will see. I will try. I will send my assistant today to see if we can get them. So when I say that, like, give me $1,000 and I will stretch it over 3 months and I will live poor. You give me $10,000, it's going to be gone tomorrow. I drive a Mercedes. I wear Gucci, right? And so I had to start shifting the way that I thought about money because my mother worked really, really hard. We were super poor when I was young. When I graduated from high school, she was a senior vice president of institutional sales and the only female at Raymond James. She now lives above my garage and I support her. She had $1 million in retirement at one point, and now I support her. And that's all because no one ever taught her about wealth, investment, owning a business. She was raised by a blue collar father that you work hard every day, you retire on CDs and your retirement fund, right? But when the market crashed in 2018 or 2008, she took money out of her 401k and no one had taught her about the tax ramifications of that. And so she lost everything to the IRS. And why do I share that story with you? Because a lot of us are in the same position. A lot of us are making decisions around the financial health and vitality of our lives and our businesses based on the way that we were programmed. So how do you master it? You teach it. And I'll share with you, I was just doing my 411, reviewing my 411 before I teach it to our team today. And a month ago, I wrote that my annual goal this year was an investment property. I have an appraisal tomorrow on my first investment property.
Amazing. That's awesome.
I do not have the cash in the bank to buy that investment property. I'm leveraging healthy debt to do it. And a year ago, 6 months ago, I wouldn't have even known what that meant or how to do it, right? And so how do we go from robbing one bank account to pay the other, which is what a lot of us do, right? We move money when this bank account goes down, we move it over here, to never having cash in the bank. We're working our tails off to then buying investment properties. And so this class, I believe, gives you the foundations of what you need to make sure that you're building a profitable business and that you are able to build long-term wealth. You know, Brett Tanner is teaching teaching KW Wealth, and he talks about 50 million as the goal. Well, we can't even get close to that if we don't have the foundation. And so this is in 4 hours from 12 to 4 tomorrow. We're going to feed you, or I'm sorry, 12 to 4 on Thursday.
Thursday. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
We're going to feed you, and I'm going to give you the easy, tactical, practical foundation that you need to start making money and having cash in the bank.
If I'm an agent at 463 and I'm headed in here for 11:59 on Thursday, do I need just a remarkable and an open mind, or do I need to bring stuff with me?
No, we're going to be sending out an email. We want you to bring 3 months of bank statements. We want you to bring any of your financials that you have. We'll be sending a little pre-course work, and I'll also be going live in the Facebook group with that list.
Yep.
The more that you can bring or have access to in the class, we're going to be doing exercises. So again, this isn't just listening to me lecture about why you need to put money in the bank and save. This is like giving you, here are the systems and models that Gary Keller is telling us, right? That we need to put in our business, and we're going to implement.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel as if I've heard a few people here and there, national calls, regional calls within our market center, talk about the fact that there's a prominent focus on wealth and wealth building in the, obviously in the last 18 months or so. I feel like it's become more prominent, and the correlation drawn that, well, we're only focusing on this now because things are getting tough. And I would argue, my contention is we're giving people another reason to have an arrow to shoot at a goal, right? Because they're like, well, why should I make calls today? Because it's such a scarcity mindset. Okay, to get the next kitchen table, to get the next deal. But like when you're sitting down and you can attach it to, okay, I am here. I want to be here. I know what I need to do to fix credit or do whatever, and sort of tie that all together. And it speaks to June 13th, I'm going to deliver Quantum Leap. And everybody keeps asking me, what is that class? I'm like, that's I call it Gary's love letter to real estate, right? Because that opening read that you do, that Gary's like poem about real estate. And I think it's him ultimately teaching the whole self, like your entire life. So I think with all the communities the company's building, with wealth and with clarity and all these things, like focusing on the whole person, the whole agent. And this is wildly important. I think people will maybe backtrack a little bit when they get that email. So talk to me about the agent that just heard you say, bring bank statements, bring this, bring that. Like the number one reason people don't want to talk, when Brad Kelly, our in-house lender, said, we say, go talk to Brad. The reason people don't want to talk to Brad is because Brad's going to deliver the truth. Like sunlight is the world's best disinfectant, and people get real tight and real itchy around this conversation. So what gave you the ability to just sort of drop your gloves and open your hands and your heart and your head and just say, I got to have this conversation with me? and move forward.
I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I got sick and tired of being broke, right? And then I turned 43 and I'm like, retirement. Our grandparents retired at 55. My mentors are working into their 70s, right? I don't want to be working, grinding into my 70s, right? I want to make it. Obviously, people before me have made these mistakes. I can learn from them and I can get transparent and get my ego. Gary talks about in his leadership class.
Yeah, Migo, ego, ego. Yes. Yep.
The ego versus the we go. And it says everyone has ego. The choice of what ego focus we choose is one of the most important decisions of our lives. Ego is going to be there. It's how you view yourself. It's how you determine your self-worth. It wants to prevent you from being your highest and best. And our brains are always seeking survival. It's the brain's number one function. So anytime you're uncomfortable, you're frustrated, you're scared, you're in fear, your brain starts looking for the exits. It's always going to default back to comfort. And that's the majority of the reasons that we can't get from E to P and break through that ceiling of achievement is because our brains are constantly working against us. So how do we change it? We change it by getting out of our ego, getting into we go, going to others. What can I learn from you? Getting vulnerable. Do you think it's easy for me to sit here and share that I'm $200,000 in unhealthy debt because we overextended ourselves last year? I was a crappy leader and I hired people that weren't right for the organization. And those relationships didn't end well and made me out to be a monster because I made poor decisions? No, but I don't get better if I don't get honest and if I don't get real. And so we have to get real. Listen, I don't want your brain to use, well, I don't have my bank statements, I don't have all of this as a reason not to come to the class. I am not going to shame you if you don't come prepared.
We're checking receipts at the door.
That's right. Just come. Just come. Just be in the room because just by listening, you're starting to open your mind to the conversation. And maybe this time you just come listen. And you sit in the back and you don't participate. I'm fine with that. I will see you and I will protect you. I will provide the safe space for you because I know this is such a sensitive subject for most.
So as opposed to, obviously, based on what you've said, this is not going to be the typical agent financials from KWU. It's going to be the Brindley Tucker, I won't say version because I know you're going to stick to the content and deliver the vision of Gary's vision. Above and beyond that, what can I expect if I'm walking in completely empty-handed? I don't want to bring my receipts, and I sit down. What actionable items would I leave with?
You're gonna learn and hear a story of someone that 11 years ago hit a rock bottom and had the credit score of a homeless person. To someone today that just took out a HELOC on her home, a home that she owns, to buy an investment property to save a 72-year-old woman from getting kicked out of her house across the street. And you're going to hear what I've done and how I've used these tools and models that Gary has given us to run my business, which is not a real estate team. It's a business that supports realtors, right? And how my clients, my coaching clients, are using these tools to change their businesses. And it's going to be safe. And we're going to be honest, and we're only going to be as honest as you want to be.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
And that's it. And it's baby steps. I didn't get here today, and I'm nowhere near where my mentors are as far as wealth and money in the bank and all of that. I am just like you on this journey of self-discovery. I'm just a little bit further ahead, and I want to share while it's still fresh what you can do to get the same results.
Yeah, I was in a conversation with one of our agents a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about the fact that, leaders, anyone who's in front of us on this journey in general, in anything, they don't have time to look back and judge. They have time to look back and extend a hand, right? If you're feeling judgment, it's usually from somebody with a great view from behind you. Yeah. And by the way, your ass looks great. So, in the grand scheme of things, somebody's behind you judging you. They've got all the time in the world to do that, but people like Brindley being in the room on Thursday, there's no judgment. It's an extension of a hand. Come on this journey, just get started. It's a huge opportunity. That is Thursday, 12 o'clock, and we will go to 4 o'clock, 12 to 4 on Thursday. I wanted to ask you a little bit more, too. I saw your post, and you actually wrote, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. You talked about your journey and leaning into leadership and the differentiation between, management and leadership. We manage things, we lead people. And I know you feel this way. I certainly do. As we've grown this company, I now have, 3 people ultimately on my team, which is a horror show. I'm like, Zoe right now is like, yeah, it's not great. So in the grand scheme of things, there's always a sense of imposter syndrome. Like, do I deserve the right? Am I privileged enough? Because it's not, leadership isn't a role. It's not a badge of honor. It's an opportunity, and it's a privilege. And the imposter syndrome that can hit people in any sense of growth, because you're always, aspiring to be that next version of you. So how do you see all that going for you in the past? You talked about all the people you've worked with. You listed out everybody you're grateful for. How many times do you run into that in your life where you're like, how did I get here? How do I deserve to be this person?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day, guys. Keith Cunningham wrote a book that Gary recommended a couple of years ago called The Road Less Stupid. And Keith says in that book, right, the only constant in business is self-doubt. And all of our self-doubt, all of our limiting beliefs come from our inner child that developed these survival tactics, if you will, this armor to protect us. And now those things are coming up trying to protect us, and we don't need that protection. And so that's when those limiting beliefs start coming in your head. I mean, I am very transparent. The people that I needed to make amends to for last year, I made amends to. The ones that I didn't, right? And I'm getting hit from a lot of different angles. Even as yesterday, I was getting hate texts last night, somebody that was obviously intoxicated telling me how horrible of a leader I was. And that's hard, right? That's not easy. And it's certainly not easy to talk about, right? It's not easy to put out to hundreds of people and say, like, I failed, but I don't get better, again, if I don't get honest. And the reality is, like, leadership requires mastery like everything else. And most of us were not taught how to be leaders by very good leaders. I was raised by leaders that were very forceful, very reactive, very management focused. But I had empathy for them because at the time they were being led by someone that was very dominant and aggressive and forceful and led with an iron fist. Yeah. Right. So we don't understand also sometimes the ripple effect of our behavior. Did I cause a lot of pain last year to some people? Yes, I did. And do I seek forgiveness for that? Absolutely. Right. And this is why there were 2 books. There was Extreme Ownership, written by Jocko, and then there was The Dichotomy of Leadership, meaning, yes, as an owner, as a leader, we take it all, but also there's a dichotomy that we're all adults and we all choose to show up how we choose to show up in situations. Right. So what I'm learning, though, is the main difference between managers and leaders is exactly what you said. You manage things, you lead people. And how do you lead people? You lead people by teaching them how to think. And how do you teach people how to think? You teach them. You teach them. And Gary tells us this is why our training calendar is so important. And every one of us should have our own personal training calendar. Where are we getting our teachings from? Who's pouring into us? And when I literally wrote a letter to my organization last September and said, I'm sorry, I have not led us. I have managed us. I have put the profitability and the financial vitality of this company at risk. And we're gonna go into a phase of being a company of goals and KPIs and metrics and GPSs and 411s. And I changed the script, and a lot of them left or didn't like it. And I have to take ownership for those results. Today, 6 months later, no one in our organization has less than 5 years experience supporting agents. We were profitable in the month of April for the first time. And today I'm teaching our team about Big Rock, 80/20 and 411, a conversation that they've heard a million times before. Right. But they're human, and we have to keep hearing it.
Well, it sounds like more people in the room are listening this time.
Yes.
Right.
They're ready for it.
The student the teacher appears when the student is ready, That's
right. And Gary said that. It makes it a lot easier when the student wants to hear it. Yep.
Yeah. I do you watch Ted Lasso?
I do.
So, yeah, I know they're wrapping up tomorrow night, I think, which is heartbreaking. 3 seasons isn't enough. Anyway, the character, Keely Jones, and she hires Shonda, her friend. And I'm thinking about what you're saying right now. And so many times when we talk to people that have gone through career visioning and are rainmakers who are starting to hire people onto the team, and you hire your friend Stacy or Kyle because they're your friend and they're in search of work, and we make emotional hires as opposed to logical hires because we don't follow the process and we don't go through that, and we brought somebody on because, well, no, she's really good at posting or he's really good at folding T-shirts. And you think that's somehow going to translate, and sometimes it just doesn't. And we're doing everybody a disservice, And
I'm learning how to get out of business with people very quickly too when I missed the mark in CV, right? And we just had someone exit our organization after 60 days because he felt like he was failing. I was frustrated, and he deserved to be in an opportunity where he was happy, right? And so I think you start to appreciate people and you start to care about the person in a different way, because last year I made it all about the people and fitting them into these roles and wanting it more than they wanted it themselves, and personal development and all of this, instead of how do I teach them to be better business owners, to lead better lives, to lead themselves, because we have to lead ourselves before we can lead anybody else. And the reality was the way I was leading myself is what I was surrounded with. And now that I'm leading myself differently, the people around me are different, miraculously, right?
Yes. Or not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Logically, the people around you have changed. Yes. That's awesome. So
and
we
hiring
will.
Friends and family, you should pay them to stay away, not join you.
Yeah.
It's never worked out well for me.
Well, it's, and I know some agents are going to roll their eyes, but I always say, like, listen, it's more often than not, it's beneficial to send your closest friends and family to a referral agent.
That's right.
Because they will take extra license with you. They will assume if you were a dentist and you laid back in their chair, you'd be like, this root canal's free, right? So they're going to expect different treatment in the ecosystem of your business as well.
That's right.
Rolling in at 9:22 with their coffee in their hand and leaving at 4:42, because they've got to head out for appointments or they've got to go on errands. I've got some errands to run. Yeah, and it's almost like having somebody close in your life that you owe money to.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And because that destroys the relationship as well.
And I say never lend money to anyone that you don't expect to get back, right?
Yes.
Never loan it to friends or family. I can show you ways to go get it somewhere else, right? Gary talked about that too. Listen, I have failed tremendously at friends and family, and now my mother is my personal assistant, but there's a reason and there's boundaries. She's on payroll, job description, right? She knows that if it doesn't work out, I'll find a better replacement. But it took years of mistakes to get there, and I don't. It's the ROI on the pain versus pleasure is not worth it.
I would love to put my mother on a PIP. Can you imagine me calling Shirley Lindsay? Listen, we've got some areas for growth. There's an opportunity for growth here. Oh boy, she would crush me. Anyway, we're going to see you Thursday in Portsmouth in this very training room for 12 o'clock, 12 to 4 with Brinley Tucker, Agent Financials, her personal spin on Agent Financials. As always, I'm sure there will be more tears shed, more emotion, more transparency. We've come to love that about you because you are so transparent. And I think when you can drop your guard, that goes right into, to me, it's feel, felt, found. Because you can stand in front of the room, and that's authenticity, right? Empathy and logic, right? So it's I understand how you feel. I felt the same way in what I found.
That's right.
When you drop your guard and you're transparent like you always are, it's a huge benefit to our agents. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Timothy, for having me, guys. I can't wait to see you. I promise to make this topic sexy. Like, it's not a very sexy topic. And I promise you, if you don't get value, I will do a free 30-minute call with you after the class to make sure that you
Now they're all going to say they hated it. You'll be booked out through January. Anyway, thanks a lot, kiddo. Appreciate it. We'll see you on Thursday.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.